Are broadcasting so far as I know, and we're ready to go. Welcome everyone. It's Tuesday night once again. Holy cow, the weeks go by. It's Keshe Plasma Reactor Group here for Tuesday, July 4th, 2017. Independence Day. If you're in the United States, that is. But it's a good word for I think that's what's happening. Is it's Independence Day has sort of overtaken the planet, and things are changing as of some time recently, it seems. Maybe we're all becoming independent entities that are also interdependent through instant communications, that kind of thing. And well, we'll see how we go, how the topics go here tonight, and that kind of thing might come up as we go along. All right. Anything to report from your end?
Oh yeah, I had a. You remember I was telling you about the pond, like how I would approach the pond. Actually, I got maybe a question to if anybody anyway know much about it. Maybe Shandor knows better than I do. I just didn't pay attention. I remember some time ago there was a guy in Italy that was doing a GAN solution to clean up his pool and to clean up the water. And recently I've been asked if I could help in cleaning up a pond. So I'm actually trying to get into what should I do, where should I go, and maybe somebody can help me out a bit.
Mr. Keshe recommended a long time ago in teachings to put a nano-coated copper plate into the pool. And in the meanwhile, there were people who experimented also with some kind of GANs. And I think you have to use the search feature into the group of the golden age of GANs from the Facebook. But there is hard to find it unless you use the right keywords, because we are posting so many posts per day, and we are about 30,000 members or 15,000, I don't remember well. Pool. No. It was some photos, and later he told about how he did. It took several weeks or months, but finally he achieved to have his pool without chemicals to stay clean. I don't know of the country. Outdoor. I see in April 2014, Katie Foley Pretty John asked the same. Does anyone on this group have a gas solution to keep swimming pool water clear for the chemicals? Let's see the answers. Nail Staves answered copper oxide and CO2 water, 1 tablespoon of each in a gallon of water. Let it sit for 24 hours and add it to the pool, 1 to 3 gallons. If your balance is still off, do it again 2-3 days later. The trick, as always, is your emotional connection and your intention. Either Bryant replied, also make nano-coated copper scrounges, dip in plasma water, dry seal in plastic and toss in the pool filter basket or water connection tanks. Heather Bryant had posted lightsaber pool. Do you know something? I pass in the chat the link for this search, and there are many things there. Keyword was swimming. Maybe we could share to the public. In November 19, 2016, there was another post. Heather Bryant. Oh my God. And there is another one, which has to be downloaded as a PDF. Oh, we don't know the origin of the. We don't know the origin of the photo, or what is the issue? It was a Facebook link to a certain post. Oh, I understand. That's not okay. Okay, okay. I'll pass then that as a PDF. I'm not wrong. Let's save as somewhere to the desktop, and then I'll pass it. Save file. Yes.
Okay, now I finally have the audio and video and everything more or less working. Alright, now we can begin. I feel like restarting the whole thing actually, but I can just cut that out of the live stream to start with, so no problem.
Shall we start again the recording?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's start the recording again.
Okay. I stop recording and I start recording.
Alright, and I will also...
Started.
Okay. We'll restart that part, and I will just say once again, welcome to the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group for Tuesday, July 4th, 2017. And we were actually, he brought up a topic about ponds and pools and cleaning and decontamination and that kind of thing. And Shandor was providing some links from the golden age of GANs on the query of swimming. And we were just about to examine that. So, what did you find there, Shandor? I might have a look at...
There is some post by Heather Bryant.
She has a file in the file section, apparently, of the golden age of GANs. Oh, here's the thing about it. Plasmafying swimming pools. Okay, I can download that PDF. There it is. Okay, I should be able to show this. So let's put this up. What happened? Okay, let's get this out of the way. These things popped up.
Besides of that, it was also another post by Heather where she told that to add copper oxide GANs and the CO2 GANs certain quantity to certain quantity of water.
Right. So let's just look at these techniques sort of one at a time here. This one, trying to figure out do-it-yourself plasmification of swimming pool method. Had received a triple nano pen lightsaber. Has been using it to plasmify his drinking water. What is a triple nano pen lightsaber? I guess that's
somebody gave a brand to a usual or a special health pen, I think.
I see on the left there's lightsaber nano pen, so it's basically the nano-coated coils inside of a pen type of apparatus. Okay, that makes sense. And he asked his SRT testing method. Not sure what that is. How much plasma water to put in the pool to charge it in 10 days? Answer, 25 gallons, which is 1/10 of a percent. Okay, 0.1%. Use the lightsaber, my rendition of the health canon, to charge 5 gallons of distilled water at a time and add it to the pool over several days for a total of 25 gallons of lightsaber plasmified water. Okay. Progression. A clairvoyant friend saw gold sparkles over his pool when it was 40% charged. The friend then saw a solid gold wall of 6 feet over the pool at 95% plasma water. 10 days later, it tested at 100% plasma water. He took an auric pic of the pool and of himself. They both showed a gold aura in matching colors. Possibilities. Many who are plasmifying their pools are noting interesting things. Imagine that, LOL. Less than half the maintenance required, easier to balance the pH, little or no mosquitoes and bugs around, less or no need to use chlorine, much easier to or not needing to recover the pool after wintering, feeling various beautiful states of being when in the pool, states of imbalance and dis-ease transmuting with ease, less desire for physical food. Other methods. Another person in our group wanted to plasmify her pool with the ocean water GAN's plasma waters for the benefits of being near the ocean, whilst in the middle of the landlocked desert. She tossed the vial of ocean GANs I sent her into the pool. We will keep you posted. Most people are simply putting the CO2 plasma waters in their pools, or placing a patch in the skimmer. Question: what would it take to plasmify the waters of this planet? What would that shift in our experience? Okay, well, there's one or two techniques that might be used for plasmifying the swimming pool.
In the same time, I remember that Mr. Keshe presented maybe in the Blueprint Week a long time ago, when he presented the nanomaterials. He has shown, or she has told about a small square of a nano-coated copper sheet, and if you put, and he said that if you put that in your swimming pool, you will have no problems with the algae.
So was that just one plate, or
yes?
What? Okay, one nano-coated copper plate in the swimming pool. I've also heard of two plates being used, one at one end and one at the other. And
that's better.
I think they were both nano-coated, but maybe one was plain copper. I can't quite remember. And I do think that in that case, I think they were inside of baggies to
yeah, in plastic bags.
In plastic bags. Is that the case of the one you're talking about, or was it just plain in the water?
Yeah, from memories, so we have to find exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, there is another post somewhere by Dan Dome. How many comments are here? There seemed to have a certain amount of interest in a previous post from someone who had cleaned their pool with a variety of gases. For some time now, I've cleared my pool very simply using chlorine granules added by hand when needed. More recently, and inspired by the aforementioned post, I tried using a sealed gem jar of CO2 GANs to see whether it would have any effect, and with some success. My pool has a regular filtration system where the water is passed through a sand filter, but I modified the return run by passing it through a large egg-shaped bucket or a cow's pool before it overflows into an artificially constructed stream or brook, where it plays amongst rocks and stones before finally cascading back into the main pool. This improves the etheric health and general happiness of the water, rather than passing it through the parallel pipes the whole time. It was in the chaos pool that I dropped the gem jar of CO2 GANs, where it lies on the floor of the bucket with the water passing over it when the pool circulates about 6 hours a day. Quite quickly, I noticed that the quality of the pool water improved further and felt softer to the touch. The waves in the pool became increasingly gentler and more subtle in their movement, and even the sound of the water as it passed down the stream and fell into the pool became quieter and more melodic. In recent weeks, I have noticed that I need to put less and less chlorine into the pool in order to keep the algae at bay and maintain crystal clarity to the water. Whether the liquid plasma can entirely replace the chlorine remains to be seen. Just thought that the pool owners amongst you might be interested. And this is a recent one from 18th, from June 18th. Okay. And the people added their experiences. Chlorine is deadly. I used it until one day I got some up my nose from my finger. 2 years later, a big polyp grew inside, etc., etc. Now I use copper silver ionizer in the pool. Okay, and somebody said add some copper oxide tubes to combat algae, mold, and mildew. Since adding both tubes of CO2 and copper oxide have only needed to add chlorine at about once every 6 weeks here in Florida, somebody else can state. So, okay. Yeah.
Sorry, the audio wasn't on in the live stream for that last little part that Guy was talking and so on. Sorry about that. Did you want to repeat anything?
To repeat what I said earlier?
What you just said, like, or just off for that part?
Yeah, that what I did was my own. I did a GANs of my own of silver GANs, and I was planning to use that for a water treatment experiment. And my silver GANs actually got spiked a bit by copper oxide, by the fact that I used copper wires to actually wrap up my plates in my bucket, and they oxidized and they dripped into my compound and basically changed the color of it, and so I kind of put it sideways. I thought it was messed up a bit, but I was planning to use that and maybe some CO2 mixed to it, and to clean up a fountain, and it's quite thick in moss and debris, so we did a bit of a cleanup, and we're gonna use it on it, and yeah, I'll keep you guys in touch anyway. I'm gonna take picture before and after and see how that goes. I'm trying to figure out a way of cleaning up ponds, pools, and little small water area. So what would be the best approach to clean up large water surface?
Okay, we can get some ideas on that in a minute perhaps. Let's have a look at the pool water treatment by Lerd and Evelyn in Vienna, Austria, having to do with the reactor and star formation. So it mentions in the house is a reactor, a PC fan with aluminum GANs and one with iodine. So what he means by a reactor is what it sounds like is the basically ping pong balls on top of a rotating fan glued onto a rotating PC fan. With aluminum GANs and one with iodine plus B12 and one with lead gold GANs in operation. In addition, there are still 2 stars in the house. I guess star formation setups. In the garden is a star formation. In the dog hut because of the weather. Okay. The pool. My pool. Capacity 13,000 liters of water. At the beginning, 10 liters of copper water and 20 liters of CO2 salt GANs water were added, and waited 4 days from the rinse with the sand filter system connected to the solar system for the pool. Then I found that the walls were slippery, so coming algae infestation left half the water again and watered my garden with it, and the fresh water replenished. I did not fail to add multifunctional tablets into the water. There are 2 coated copper spirals in the basin and 2 coated copper spirals on the ground and a glass bottle with CO2 GANs water. There are 6 coated table tennis balls filled with CO2, CuO2, CH3 GANs water in the water and swim there. I must be surprised that as the water does not smell of chlorine, the skin is wonderfully soft, no white chlorine coating on the skin, and you feel after the swimming pleasure as in a spa, completely relaxed and at the same time totally refreshed. In my tobacco can, I give a CO2 and CuO2 copper GANs bottles with pure to neutralize the unhealthy additives. I've already built a lot and experimented, and everything has worked. Thanks to Keshe and all the contributing to this technology. May it spread worldwide. Okay. You get some things out of that?
That was quite different there.
Mm-hmm.
Did use the little GANs balls on top of poured some GANs water, and he said something like a copper water. I was wondering what is copper water.
2 coated copper spirals in the basin and 2 coated copper spirals on the ground.
Yeah, so those would be. But he said at the beginning, 10 liters of copper water.
Oh, I see. 10 liters of copper water.
Copper GANs, he must
I'm
mean.
assuming copper GANs water.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which makes sense.
sense. Okay, any comments about that or additional information on decontamination of pools and how to clean up ponds and pools with the Keshe technology?
the ponds in question is not very dirty, but it has some sort of a moss. How do you call it?
Algae?
Algae problem, or which grows on the side, and it's pretty thick. So basically, it's quite a large pond. I'd say a couple 100 feet. So it's anyway. It's I wonder about the quantity too. How much I would put in there, and it's quite large.
Okay, so any other input on the pool and pond idea? I think I've also heard of people using a container with GANs in it. I think the container would have GANs in it, and you put that in the pool or pond.
So it would not mix with the water.
Right. But the fields have the effect.
And then you would put is it that one you were mentioning that you had two at the other end?
You could create a gradient is the idea with say 2 different volumes of
Yeah,
GANs.
3-2-1 type of thing.
Yeah, something like that could work. Or different combinations of GANs as well. Or you could have a 2 or 3 core, reactor that you could actually put in the pool as well. Why not have one that's rotates, so it sort of skims around on the pool and cleans as it goes. They have the pond skimmers now that do that automatically. We should be able to do it with some sort of device. Makes sense. Alright, we can move on here. I see that there's a question in the live stream from BJ. Some pictures from the community room. I'll have to try to find those. Does anybody else have something they'd like to present at this point? Or say? Questions? Comments? Should we just go home, Guy?
Oh yeah. I'll go in the pond.
Go work on the pond and go for a swim.
I just want to thank you for the past teachings that is happening. Excuse me. And I know the time is very different in California for you as well. I just want to thank you your superhero efforts, Rick, and just every single day, every single session was really good, and I'm so happy for all of that. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Alper. It's a pleasure to be here and be of service and do this little gig. It's been about over 4 years here in this Tuesday night thing, and that's what we do. We try to find out what people are up to around the world in the realm of the Keshe technology primarily, but not exclusively. But that's generally what we focus on, and we certainly had a full range of topics here, everywhere from the nano to the GANs to the beyond into the spiritual realm, you could call it, where we've actually talked about feeling the fields. Ooh, spooky. Not too spooky when you figure it out. It's actually quite scientific. And we were discussing some of that kind of thing in the ongoing Blueprint for Peace for Humanity series that's going on now too, which is happening from 10 in the morning till 5 p.m. Each weekday. That's Central European time. And that's on the regular Knowledge Seekers Workshop channel. So it's broadcasting, it's actually 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon is what we've been doing. That might get shortened as we go along. It's supposed to go on for the whole month of July. So we've got quite a ways to go. And it's been a very interesting progression of what you could call teachings from Mr. Keshe and others. Caroline talked quite a long time in the last one and clarified some different points about this technology and how to use it. And Mr. Keshe is requesting this month that people focus less on the GANs and nano-materials and focus more on placing our attention toward world peace and peace in ourselves, first of all, and focusing more on how to get to space without a spaceship, basically. So it's an interesting concept, if you think of that. That our true calling is to be voyagers, and maybe we can do it without the physicality spaceship. Maybe even without our own physicality spaceship, ultimately. So it'd be a handy thing to learn. Especially if you plan on transitioning through death without being trapped in a casket.
Little plasma bubble.
How do I get out of here again? Oh, it's kind of late to do your emergency planning at that point. Might be good to learn beforehand.
Yeah.
Well, that is an esoteric technique of some teachings, is to learn how to die before you die. You die to ordinary life so that the attractions and repulsions of ordinary life don't drag you down when your time comes for transition into going to space. Because, you know, nothing like being out in space and somebody whining about, you know, I want to go home and watch the movie, or, you know, I want to...
No turning back
I
here.
miss trees. I really want to... I need to be in the woods, like, right now. We're, like, 4 light years away.
4 light years away.
Therapy session. Everybody get together. Here we go. I have to deal with Earth sentimentality again here.
We need a holodeck, you know, like in Star Trek. Like we can you know, have 3D, any environment 3D you can recreate.
Oh, you mean like Earth?
Or many other places.
Well, I mean, like, that's what Earth is in a way. It's kind of a holodeck. In a way, it's a playground for beings. Come here to either have fun and play or get down and work and kind of be a benefit for others, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
It's either playing or learning, it seems. It's nice to combine both, but...
Yeah, a bit of both, I'd say.
Yeah, but there are kind of separate streams, I think. Anyway, I don't want to get too philosophical here. Let me see. Justin Smith, let me get him. He just wants to be promoted, I believe, here. Oh, you're already promoted. There is no other. Did you want to speak, Justin? I see you're interested to be.
Yes, thank you very much. How are you, buddy?
Good. How are you doing?
Hello.
Great. Thank you for everything you're doing lately. I know it's got to be exhausting. Everybody's under a lot of pressure. A lot of things are going on. And you're probably not getting enough rest. I appreciate everything you're doing. I want to say that from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you.
Everybody I know that
Especially
is actually
true
looking
tonight.
into what you do.
By the way, this
I-
program might be a bit short because I have to start broadcasting in about 2 hours and 15 minutes for the
absolutely understand that. There's been a lot of
blueprint.
people, at least in the local vicinity now, that are reaching out. I'm hoping that those of you that are on the workshop tonight that I did speak with in the local area, um, let's do more of this, okay? Because not so much just the workshops, but the collective gatherness of everybody being able to do these things together. We are able to reach further, talk to more people, get more people involved, and that's where we are actually able to reach a whole lot. I'm not trying to go against in any way with Mr. Keshe's wish of not making the GANs and not building the reactors. That's not my focus at this point. And I hope it's not everybody else's focus as well. What we're trying to do is beyond parallel with what you're about to do in the next, like you said, an hour and 45 minutes or so, 2 hours, where we're reaching everybody we can. Please grab your friends, grab people, get them involved. Um, we're changing a world to the way we want it, and we actually have the ability just by being humble, smart, beneficial, helpful people. Nobody here has ever done anything to hurt anyone. Whether we have the naysayers and the trolls and all those people that show up in every different avenue, we just keep moving on forward. And I want to say most of all, if it is possible, Rick, I did give you those files. I'd like to produce those out for 3-core reactors in the next couple of days when I do have time. I'd like to show everybody how to wire them themselves with whatever pictures we can give. You guys can find wires, you can find magnets, you can make these things. We don't have to buy them from anybody. The whole idea and purpose behind what I did in the last couple of years was find everything I could in a local environment to make sure that this was a free technology, not that I'm making a huge profit off of it in any way. I was scared off for a little while, and it was through the trolls and through the people and what showed up at my house and stuff like that. And what I want to say more than anything is whether they allow us through an emotional imbalance or feeling of fear in any way, we can rise above any of that together. The more we share, the more we give, the more comes back to us. I've had recently people gift me a vehicle. This woman who gave me a ride to be able to get to work and sustain my own living by just a vehicle is also offered to the work. This is from the same people, one avenue, what we're doing together. And Rick, beyond what people are able to do with just the Knowledge Seekers Workshop, this is a home group.
Sorry, you're breaking up there, Justin. We just you said this is a home brewed, I think, or homegrown.
Home brewed. I think
we lost his audio entirely. Hello, Rick. How you doing? This is Denny.
Hi, Denny.
Hi, Denny.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I shut down all my GANs making and all that stuff. I take this time off to do the finding the or utilizing the reactor in my own head, the soul. And it's pretty interesting how Mr. Keshe has set up the soul location, which was entirely different than what we normally have perceived over the years where the soul would be. And it's interesting to understand that the soul is in between the two hemispheres of the brain and can be increased in strength by the plasma strength of your own heart. So that's a couple of things I got out of the teachings over the last 3 teachings that you guys have put on, Rick. And so I think that this, I didn't even expect you to be here tonight. When I came here, I was surprised to see you here. And so I think it might be wise for us during this month, as we meet on Tuesdays, that we progress through the magnification of our soul and utilizing the skills that we'll be learning over the next 30 some days. Might be wise for us to work on our own internal reactor. I think that's what you would call the soul. Be another name for it, is the word that Mr. Keshe is using for the soul. I mean, he's using that internal reactor and calling it the soul as one of the same. What would you say to that? Are you there? Are you hearing me?
Yeah, about the internal reactor.
Yeah, yes, the one that sits between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. It is like a free plasma. It's not a physical thing. It's a plasmatic field. Is that what he's been saying? How do you understand that?
Well, that's basically it. I look at it as there's part of us that that could be called our real I. Because when we say I, what do we mean? Do we mean all of this physicality from the toes to the nose to the fingers and ears and everything? Is that my I? When I say I, I, me, who is in this physicality, where is the I located? Where is the I? Is it in your chest? Is it in your mouth, your throat, your head, your eyes, your whole body, somewhere out there? Where is that I? And is it always, when we say I, like, oh, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm going to buy a candy bar. Okay, that's one I. And the other I that says, I am for world peace, might be a different I. And the I that says, I am here now, that could be another I. And the I that doesn't talk, that might be another I, and so on. So we have these places, or we have a place inside of us that resonates with that I. What is I? What is my true nature, my true I, my real I? And if we can locate that, maybe it is between the brain or somewhere
between the eye.
Between the eye.
Well, the thing of it is, we're strengthening it and we're expanding it. What Mr. Keshe is teaching us over this next month is to expand that using the strength of the strength of the reactors in your heart. In other words, he's put the left side of the hemisphere is connected to the right side of the field force in the heart, and the right side of the brain's field force is connected to our flows through the energy flows through the left side of the field force of the heart. And so actually the soul is what he's talking about there, and he's using that as the I, the essence of your being, and that he's getting us to I wouldn't just say magnify it, but to
I'm just going to use the word amplify. Yes.
To increase the field strength of that of the soul, and then of course the field strength of the soul will expand beyond the hemispheres of your brain, beyond the hemispheres of your heart, beyond the hemispheres of your, and which we have a lot of things in common that we've experienced over our lives, just the things of the thought, how it connects to others. And so
let's look at that point for just a minute. And like we mentioned, okay, so you sort of sketched out this I, this root or core of our beingness, let's say, and then its presence, let's say, expands out from that point once it becomes aware that it's able to do so. And what I'm proposing is there is that I, but it doesn't have a true existence until it does expand out and interacts with its environment, because then there's a certain kind of duality that takes place. There's the I and there's the it, and there becomes a vibration between the two, between your inner and the outer. There can be like a connection. There's that infinity loop, you could say, between all of the outer stuff and that inner I. And what I'm suggesting is that tension between the two, between the inner going attention and the outer going attention on stuff, is like, that is the beingness in that moment is determined upon that vibration, because otherwise that being has nothing to work with. It would just tend to expand into the full universe, probably, if it had.
It looks like the flows of the fields. If you, as we progress with the field forces of our soul, they definitely flow to and from each other and to the locations you'd want to locate to. Because if you're going to react like a reactor, you're turning your body into basically a portion of a star formation. Remember, we talked about creating a spaceship with 4 people. Well, as the 4 people as reactors, and the reactor would be us, and so that's one way to create a spaceship. And if I never have to nano-coat another piece of copper and never have to make any GANs ever again, and I can use the strength of my soul to do everything and more than with the reactors, because Mr. Keshe explains that this was just a precursor to let you know that you could feel the field forces. There's really no need for GANs, and there's really no need for nano-coating copper. That right there, so that you could learn to feel the field forces. That was one of the statements he's made over the last 3 days. And so I was, again, I'll have to make a remark. I didn't expect you to be here tonight, but since we're here, and since we're following the suggestion of Mr. Keshe to set aside our Ganses and to learn to increase or learn to control the flow of our soul, because that's what he's trying to teach us too, is not only just to expand our soul, but to learn to control the plasmatic fields of the soul. And I'm using those words and terms not because I really know what they mean, but I have a certain understanding of it. I'm just using the terms that are out there right now. Well, and I'm using plasma as the term that Mr. Keshe is suggesting to use it. I'm using the soul as just so that I can get a grasp of it. Other people will grasp it a little bit different, but I'm using the soul as a form of free plasma that moves and flows, because the soul has, from what I think I heard him say, I'm not so certain that I heard him say this, that it had no physicality. It's a plasma in itself. So as it's going to be fun to see this progress over the next month, and it has a value that is beyond making making our star formations out of material. This is actually the higher goal.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of the ultimate ball game to work on self to the point of being an individual consciousness that is self-directed, self-controlled, and able to exist anywhere in the universe. A little corollary at the bottom, able to exist anywhere in the universe. That might mean that there's probably lots of places that our physicality can't be dragged along with us when we go to those places. So that's why we need to learn how to exist without it.
I'd like to do a whiteboard screen share.
Oh, good. Right. Thank you, Denny. That would be a great idea.
Okay. So I gotta learn how to use whiteboard all over again. Okay. I got to, there we are, whiteboard pencil. There we go. I probably want to use black here, and for right now. So where am I? There. So I'm just going to draw, and then anybody should add to this. And for the first part, I'm going to draw. I'm going to say that's the left hemisphere, and this is the right hemisphere. And this is something that Mr. Keshe drew yesterday, right? No, the day before yesterday. That was on. Yesterday was Tuesday. Yeah.
Day 2.
And so, and if we look at this as our own head, you know, our nose is actually sitting right about here, because our jaw and part of our back brain hangs down lower than our jaw. Our occipital lobes hang back there. But let me just get rid of that again.
Maybe you should put 2 eyeballs in there too.
Well,
you have quite a character then.
I'm just going to undo the nose.
Well, the eyeball would show the double core.
And so what I'm going to do now here is put. This is not. It's not the shape of the heart, but it's the field forces of the heart that he was talking about. Because it's when you look at a physical heart that's sitting in our body, and you go to YouTube and look at go to Google and look at an image, you know, the heart.
Right. It's come up in Facebook that the heart's actually more in the center of the body than toward the left side, like we're led to believe. Although it's got a larger part that's on the left side.
When he first drew this, well, I thought he was drawing lungs, but he was talking about the heart. And so let me use a different color here. Shall we use, I might as well use a red. So, and he drew it, calling this the left side, as if the person was facing you, and he called this the right side. So he had the left side of the left hemisphere doing the infinity loop with the right side of the heart's field force. Now let me get another color here. Let's go with blue. And so he was going from the right side of the right hemisphere. See, that's where you need a person who can manipulate these things better. And so then he was saying basically where these field forces cross, the expansion of the soul, the free plasma of the soul. I'm calling it the free plasma of the soul, and it's probably not what I should be saying. I should just be calling it the soul. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's what Mr. Keshe is calling it, is the soul.
Well, it almost looks like you're residing that the interaction point then is going to be at the heart level.
Well, it's above the heart level, because eventually there's a two-way interaction that Mr. Keshe was talking about. At a certain point, you're using the heart to increase the field forces of the soul. Then you're using the soul to increase the field forces of the heart. And at one point, at a certain, when you learn to control this, you don't need the field forces of the heart. You're using the field forces of the soul. Now, at any time someone has a different take on this, they come in and say, I don't see it that way, Denny. I see it this way, because I'm not the expert on this. Okay, I've done things.
I think you're fine right now, Denny. Keep going.
Okay, so this is one of the things that he talked about, and so if anybody else wants to add to this at this time.
With this drawing, to me, it's quite accurate, really. But there are other things to be taken care of, to be understood with this equation. It's perfect, actually, this drawing. What we are doing at the moment, it maybe sounds like to the first-time listeners that the soul is somewhere else, that we're trying to reach and we're trying to bring it towards ourselves, and or it's somewhere in there in ourselves, and we need to find it. Where is it? Where is it? Like, who's actually talking at the moment? We're talking from our souls through the filter of our physicalities, calculating our environment calculates us, and this is the interaction that what we're doing. The soul is talking right now. The Mr. Keshe mentioned yesterday that when you're talking, try to choose your words just to be able to elevate the other souls. That's controlling that filter. Okay, we're able to control that filter so that we can gradually look towards. We're not angels, we're not prophets. I mean, let's not put a name. We're not going to go and give out roses to everyone, but we're seeing through our soul is absolutely this drawing dictates that, and then he explained it, Mr. perfectly. That's just how it is. To be able to control that filter, and means too many things for everyone. Controlling our emotions. Is it possible controlling our thoughts? Do we have to control our thoughts? No. I love my thoughts. I can't control my thoughts. I don't want to control my thoughts. I love my thoughts to just like clouds to pass, and I like to observe them rather than get into and fixate on towards. You see this balance I'm talking about, this heart and soul It's just all this. This filter comes while up and down throughout the day, years, all our lives, according to other people. And because it's all about the interaction, and but being able to see through your soul, through your eyes, is actually doesn't need too much effort. It's just to be able to understand this, really, this interaction. And the filter, you can dictate. If you want to do it, you really can do it. Okay, you're not going to be called an angel. You can find the balance towards that, and actually just create some kind of a balance, understanding, under the understanding of this soul business that we call it.
Okay, I got a question for you, Alper.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the eyes. Where would the eyes fit in this drawing? How can we incorporate how the eyes interact with the two sides of the brain, the seat of the soul, and the heart?
When I simply look at it, our structure, I see it ping pong balls as our eyes, and I see our brains, and I have an information. I know the knowledge about the pineal gland, and it resonates. It looks like another reactor to me within the reactor, and this interaction is happening all the time within ourselves. It attracts, or we don't know what information. I can't describe what information, but when it comes to balancing with our heart, it resonates to me, where heart actually, when I look at someone, when I filter out my intentions according to my environment, I evaluate this drawing, and then I can move towards, according to the person, on a soul level, which actually I've done this tonight, and there was, because of today's honor, there was a laser show, and we were invited with friends. It was all dark, and then I started talking about what was happening with our teachings over the past 3 nights, and not producing the tools, but talking about what we are actually. We're particle accelerator, as the technology says, like CERN. How can we accelerate it? And all our structures determine that. Anyway, I am repeating Mr. Keshe's talk simply. It's just, that was it, sir. Yeah.
Well, he mentioned last time about it's not necessary to meditate, and what was the other thing? To
go under a really big discipline and teachings, years and years, and detach yourself from everything and not eat and suffer, kind of understanding, as Mr. Keshe said it, put the full stop on it, and it's not needed.
That was part of it, but the idea being that through the eyes, that it wasn't necessary to close your eyes in order to feel your soul, or to access your soul. And so it wasn't a meditative act, really. It was more in the moment, in the environment and conditions around one, and so on. So what I'm proposing is, what I'm trying to get through here is this idea of how the eyes might interact. We're told, who is it, the famous quote, the eyes are the windows of the soul.
Absolutely, yes, mirrors of the soul. That's so true.
Windows, actually, not mirrors, but windows of the soul. And that's different than mirrors of the soul. Now the idea is...
That's how we say it in our culture. That's so interesting. That's really nice.
Okay, so maybe if the eyes are the windows of the soul, but maybe the eyes can also be the headlights of the soul.
Absolutely, sir. Yes, both
So
ways.
it's a two-way, yeah, it's a two-way
That's right.
interaction. So
That's right.
maybe that's one way that the soul can interact, if we can learn to see in a different manner than we usually do with our physicality eyes, expecting a physicality form to be interpreted in front of us. I look at my coffee cup. It appears to be the same coffee cup as it was last time. It appears to have a bit of coffee at the bottom and so on. But that's my physicality eyes taking that signal, and the brain in its hemispheres busy interpreting that signal, rather than if I was to focus on the cup and the total environment and do a different perception with my eyes and my attention, then I would be able to perhaps feel the cup, or
Absolutely.
sort of understand the full archetype of the cup, or interpret that in a different way. Maybe the cup would even disappear, or something like that, or maybe it would even levitate.
When we look at objects, it is not just we're looking at it. We're thinking on a multiple level other issues about our lives, about our other things. Even we're thinking about when should I finish this coffee? There are many other, let's say, auras, I would say, around that cup. It's like there are many filters around that cup to penetrate, to be able to all of that, to be able to see the cup itself. It comes with observing. Our eyes are for observing. That's what it is. That's the idea of the eyes that we have. We are observing the events when it is actually happening. That we come to this observer field. Your soul is looking at it. Really, there are photos in China. Amateur photos. There was this person was sitting on the bench and the crowd. His whole body was glowing, but a human form. I'm not talking about a cloud or a smoke or anything like that. It's a whole thing was totally bright light. So it really does make sense with what Mr. Keshe talks about it. It correlates it, and then it gives meaning of what other people talking negatively or positively. It just makes a whole understanding in me. It's observing by the observing.
Okay, so you might be you'd be talking. Maybe we could classify it as it's possible to have objective observation as opposed to subjective, which is, like you're saying, our own feelings and different impressions and memories are interfering with the message that our eyes are seeing, and we put these overlays on, which prevents us from actually being able to see directly in the moment. So we're always a little once removed because of these different filters, and so we tend to color our not just our observations, but our whole experience, therefore, of the universe from moment to moment from this. So the question might be, how can we move from subjective observation, which, let's say that most people, including ourselves, tend to fall into, let's say, to a more objective observation, and what would the ultimate true objective observation be? What would it be in its, principle kind of
in its true essence? What is the true understanding of the?
What is that in relation to the soul, basically? So it makes sense that the closer we get, according to the way that we've defined it, the closer we get to objective observation,
Yeah.
should be the closer we are to our essential self
So
or
true.
the soul. Correct?
I'm going to breaker here just for a moment.
Please do.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
it's just that I might disagree with the objective and subjective point of view. The subjective being the fact that it's emotional, and the emotional and the flow of the field forces of the heart is what helps uh, uh, increase the fields of the soul. And one of the things that I'm going to go back to the eyes just for a minute, and one of the indicators that you're knowing that you've increased the field forces of your soul is that you, when you're generating the strength of your heart to increase the field forces of your soul, you will see a flash as the soul expands beyond your
Yeah.
eyes. In
Just the
other
corner
words,
of your eye.
and so that was an indicator. And so when we get back to the subjective and the objective, you use your emotions, and there's a variety of emotions, and those emotions aren't going to be so much objective as they are going to be subjective. And so you may want to use the subjective memories or imaginations to increase the strength of the field forces of the heart.
Yeah, but I understand it. Like the previous teachings, there are many teachings, many disciplines, many understandings of it all. No one's talking wrong. Believe me, there are many different attitudes to approach it, like channeling multidimensional beings, that you can call all sorts of terms towards to be able to explain one thing. We're talking about all one thing right now. When you look at it from its totality, as you think of it as if it's a domino stones being just sort of applied to one another, and when you look at it, we're talking about within its detail. Okay, if the intention is right from the beginning, all the rest of the dominoes will be laid out accordingly with its beauty. We are sometimes discussing within its beauty rather than seeing the whole totality of it. This is one of those things. That's how I get it. That's how I understand it. But it will be in its own all detail. It will be a beautiful gathering, beautiful layout. We're just discussing this layout is so beautiful, really so beautiful. That's what you're saying, or the other people saying, and we're saying yes, it is. But this is so beautiful. It's all the same thing to my understanding, and it all comes down to its interaction. Like you drew on it simply, it really is eyeballs is missing there, and I think that's where I come from, the understanding of it total, really. Yeah, no one can be wrong. It's impossibility, really. It's
just sometimes when we talk about how we are observing, and what we are observing, and what we are filtering, and also our insights at the same time, that can be altered voluntarily, is what I'm suggesting. That's possible for us to take some not control exactly, but more of a letting go, learning to let go of these filters, so that we can see more clearly our true interaction, and we can activate the true fields that need to be activated in order to do whatever work that needs to get done by this entity that has all of its functions functioning and kicked into hyper mode in a way.
So may I interject just for a moment?
Surely.
One of the things that Mr. Keshe asked us to do is to practice, and so we have an understanding of the reactors we use. We have the understanding of the flow of the field forces. We have those understandings, and so to generate the strength of the heart. Some of the things that have taken place that are in your lives that are so emotional that it even shakes the frame of your body. I remember being so afraid of the dark, and how that fear was such a motivational fear, and how much strength it had within my own body to where it would control me and shake me. And you put me out into a dark forest, and I see a couple of eyes out there that look like a mountain lion. I would have that fear again. And that fear is a very powerful fear, and so that's an emotion that I can utilize in my generating the strength of the field forces of the heart, and then to pass that on into the soul. So that's one way to practice, or at least that's a way of practice that I was utilizing. And
strength of the heart comes with the courage.
Well, no. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about not controlling that fear, but utilizing that fear, because it's a powerful field force. It's not something I have to. It's not something that I have to forgive myself for being so wimpy. But be happy that I had that emotion. Be glad that I have that resource within my memory, my essence, so that I can generate. And the same thing with love and the emotions I've felt when my first child was born, and all these kind of things, and love between my spouse and myself. These are powerful emotions, and so what I'm trying to do is generate the emotions of the heart, so to increase the field forces of the soul. And I'm sure.
Which
go ahead.
The ultimate result seems to be to bring us closer to the moment, to put that edge on, that gives us, the ability to truly pay attention in the moment, rather than get caught up with some of the lower emotions that kind of intertwine through our life, or oh, this coffee wasn't good because it has too much milk in it, or whatever kind of funny little things that might intertwine in our life and tug and pull at us and so on. All of those kind of fall away when a strong emotion of love comes through, or emotion of fear, and so on. And so we can take advantage of those stronger emotions I think in sort of a judo or Tai Chi sort of way, in that they bring us into the moment. It's like there's nothing like a strong emotion to just make you right there with it, because you have to be. That's part of experiencing the whole thing. And so if we can learn to transform it, to not get involved in the emotion, but to detach from that, but use that energy to bring us totally focused into the moment. And then we can feel the fields. That's when we can start really feeling, because we are expanding out. Everything's activated. The physicality is all systems go, activated, like aware and present, but not necessarily fleeing in the opposite direction at high speed, but actually just there with it and paying attention to it. Then that can feed our soul, I believe, is the way I look at it, rather than feed our physicality or ego. If you were to feel that fear of the dark, for example, and I've been in that kind of situation where I've been on the trail, the flashlight went dead, and you know, I got another kilometer to walk along a narrow cliff with a heavy load and complete darkness with eyes peering out, it seemed like, from cougars and that kind of thing. And it puts a certain edge, you know, that last part of the walk, it seemed to be eternity, because every step was, you know, am I going to step on a rattlesnake? And all these considerations were coming in, but I couldn't really give in to them at the same time, because I had to really pay attention each foot at a time and really be there in the moment for that, or, you know, really bad stuff could happen, or whatever. So it's, you know, we have, I think it's a way to, what do you think, Danny? How are you thinking of it?
I'm thinking there's the fear aspect that will increase the field flows of your heart, and then there's the pleasure aspects that will increase the field flows of your heart. Let's say you have an aroma that you really love, and you can take and you can smell it, and it will just fill you with great feelings of wonderful sensation. You know, it just permeates your whole body, and it's like it brightens your perspective on life and brightens your mind, and it's just a fantastic aroma that you love. And it may be and so that's another way of utilizing that heart field forces, because that's what we're trying to do as we practice this. Now, I'm sure Mr. Keshe will have things that he will suggest us to do so that we can feel the strength of our heart to then have these flows go to the left, you know, have these flows go to our soul and to expand the forces of our soul. And, you know, just the thought of peace. I mean, if a person just would just for a moment feel what it would be like, or imagine what it would like if the world was full of peace, that would be another technique to expand the soul. And so
we're talking about expanding the soul, but you're talking from your soul, Danny. You're so beautiful. That's what it is. You're your soul. That's what I'm hearing. All I'm hearing is just like amazing things. I think that's just what it is, isn't it?
Well, the reason why. Yeah, go ahead. Let me mute.
Can I talk something?
Please, Mr. Chair.
To explain what you are saying. Can I share screen, please?
Go ahead. I think you should be able to.
Let me stop my share, and you can start from scratch.
Okay, please. Now, you see my screen? Do you see my screen?
I do. I see your screen. Thank you.
Yes. I get out the grid. So, we have a reactor now. Our soul is the highest one. Our soul, when our soul is present, we order to the brain the soul commands the brain, and the brain he sends the wave for the heart, and the heart have a feeling. And when the heart have feelings, the lung begin to work. And after the lung work, it come back to the brain to equal to the brain. And Mr. Keshe say we open our eyes. Why? Because with our eyes, we connect with the brain to look at the soul. when we have a soul, we have a halo on the soul. Our eyes can see the halo. With this halo is a white, bright point, and when we look, when we saw the halo, our heart have a very good feeling, and with the feeling, we try to with the learn breathe with this halo. Why Mr. Keshe is saying this is a, you see, this is a really a reactor. What I can
If it's
I can understand.
that's nice. If it's really a reactor, then we have what's called the free plasma in the very center of those forms. What would that represent in this case?
Yes, you know, in six element, brain, heart, and lung is energy. Is energy, and the brain is controlled by the soul. When the brain work, the heart beat. The rhythm of the heart. If the like when you're angry, your heart beat very hard, and your lungs have to get the oxygen for the heart, and you breathe faster. You see, and when you breathe faster, your brain work harder, and these three they work all together. This is energy of the man.
But
And
what about the free plasma in the middle? Like that's what I'm suggesting, that you know, there might be in the very center.
Yeah, I know. Like in the
That's the free plasma.
No, free plasma because the soul is a big plasma.
Yeah, that's why I would suggest the soul might be the free plasma in the middle, and maybe there's the maybe the brain would be at the top, or the seat of the soul in the brain. And what else? We have heart, lung, brain. What about the rest of the body? Is it in there at all?
No, because I say in the sixth element, I can explain very well what Mr. Keshe said. Because
well, I think, okay, how about this? The soul, what you have as soul, Mr. Keshe often says, is the soul in the body, or
no, the soul is not in the body.
Well, in located in between the halves of the brain, not necessarily just in the body, but that's its local location, right? Or are you saying not? You're saying the brain is that part.
Now I explain one more thing. You now you imagine the brain, heart, and the lung is the car, and the soul is the driver. This is a matter. This is a man. Is a soul. Is driving a car with the brain, heart, and lung. If you can imagine this one, you see this is a matter, and this is a spirit. We have to separate them because the brain is matter, the heart is matter, and the lung is matter. But the soul is something not the matter.
That's why I was. That's why I would tend to put it as the free plasma in the center rather than the as part of the same reactors as the physicality parts. But we're sort of talking about interaction of fields to start with, right? So it's really the fields of the brain, the fields of the heart, and the fields of the lungs, and the field interact with the fields of the soul. And maybe the one in the center is the principal soul, the principal matter, you might
We
say.
can say this is interact of the soul, brain, and the heart and the lung. In the interaction of four field of plasma.
Okay, and
This
what is the net result? Go ahead, Danny.
Let me just stop for a moment and listen to you. I'm going to interject at a different time. Go ahead.
So, okay, so were you going to take this further, Mr. Chan, or would you like to stop here? Or Danny, go ahead.
I think I'll go ahead and make a comment here. Each person has to draw within himself the system that he can understand and imagine that increases the field strength of the soul. If this particular diagram here helps to increase the strength of his soul and others, and if it helps other people to visualize this so that it increases the strength of their soul, it doesn't quite reach it for me because I may not quite understand it yet. That's why I was using the simple little drawing that Mr. Keshe made, because it made quick reference for me to utilize the physicalness of the emotion. Although emotion you cannot call physical, but you can call the apparatuses that the blood that flows through to is full of the emotion. The two field forces of the heart. Those really aren't physical, but the heart itself is physical. And but my objective is to increase the field strength of my soul. That's what my objective is over this next 30 days, so that I can keep progressing as Mr. Keshe is explaining things, and I'm sure that he will explain more things as we go.
Okay, Danny, let me ask you. Now you're familiar with the starship configuration as far as the three on the bottom and one on the top reactors, yes, you could say. And,
yes, I am familiar with that.
And with the idea of the free plasma in between. How can you take what you were saying earlier, and can you put different words in this diagram to illustrate, or how can we, because we know from our experiences with the universe that things tend to operate this way with, if there's two items, then there's fields between them. If there's three items, there's field interactions between all of them that create something in the middle of those three items. And if there's four items, then there's field interactions with all of them, and there will be something created in the middle of all of those four entities. That's kind of a universal rule, let's say, and we could see that in different realms, everywhere from crystals that are grown on the atomic level, right up to universes and so on, or galaxies. How can we tie in what you were just saying with these, and do we need to use different words? Are we talking about field strengths, or are we talking about physicality parts, and so on? It gets a little, we have to, maybe I'm being picky with defining words here, but you were saying that the image didn't work for you. I'm thinking, well, it's a mag grab, or it's a starship configuration. It should work somehow. Maybe it's the words that don't work.
It would take me a little bit of time
Maybe
to
a
then
sledgehammer and a chisel and so on.
No, this may be very well be the thing that I need to increase the field forces of my soul. Now, even those words, increase the field forces of my soul, may not be the accurate words, but I might just say expand my soul. But to me, increase the field forces of my soul means the same thing as expand.
Would that be like being more present in the moment, or more present? Let's say a presence of presence in the moment.
Well, this is pretty. This is
kind
pretty
of a
nice.
similar idea, expanding your soul. You mean at a particular moment, not just in general in life, you know, from now on, hopefully to expand somehow. You're talking about actually doing it in the moment to make some sort of change in your consciousness, let's say. Can we enter that word into it? Or
it's gotta happen sometime. So in the moment would be a good time to have it happen.
It doesn't work well when it happened in the past, because then that's all you got to talk about is a memory of it.
Yeah, the past flew perfect.
It's not so great in the future, because you never get there if it's always in the future. So I guess it kind of has to be in the now.
I only suggest this picture only for you have idea to expand your imagination only. I don't think I'm right. I never say I'm right, but I suggest this kind of reactor to fix with the soul only.
Yes, I think it's great. This is what we're trying to do is to get our imagination flowing so that we can increase the field forces of our soul, right, Jen?
Yeah. I try to I give you more imagination about soul only.
Why not? This could be a being where it interacts this way. Who would know? Soul, brain, lung, and heart. It seems not right to me, but why not? Who am I to say not right? And I'm only allowed to say how it feels to me. I mean, I would, if I would to change these names, and I would put I can put heart, and instead of brain, I could put other organs down below, and instead of heart, I can put something else. And,
you can put
I can put tiny gland, brain, lung for eyes, and the heart for nose. So that when you look at the whole structure, is inevitably they all interact with each other in this capsule, and it can be discussed really. But it can what you can determine is to how much it interacts with each other, and you can discuss on that forever. But it's all individual anyway.
Okay, yeah. I had an insight onto what the red circle in the middle could be in this context. And what if we entered in, like people talk about chakras and so on, but also the idea of the solar plexus, solar meaning sun or center of this plexus organization. So if the center was your soul, in the terms of our physicality, which is brain, heart, lung, and so on, if solar plexus was in the center, then that indicates it's not just a part of the body, but it's a sort of a sensing organ. It's our way of sensing our environment or reaching out to someone on the other side of the planet. You can do that through solar plexus, and some people operate that way, others operate differently. But
in the middle, the empty space that the free plasma is called, it could be a stomach.
Yes, right.
This structure, if
Well,
you
what we
divide.
call the stomach, but I'm calling it the solar plexus, which is actually that it's a voidness. It is the a voidness. You're right, but it's not just an empty stomach kind of thing. But it's the place that's
Please,
a connector.
Rick,
Hello.
I have to say to everybody, I have learned only for 2 months, but I give you ideas only. I know the brand health and lunch you can change every organ you want, but this is what a design for the soul and the connection of the other organ.
All right. Yeah. It's
I
fun
have
to
a
play with
suggestion
it
only.
as a concept, and that's what we're doing here.
Yeah,
We're just
I give a concept for you.
expanding and contracting on the ideas. It's a good exercise because it's handy to have something to focus on, because we are manifesting on this planet, and we have happen to have our eyes open now, or at least most of us do. Not always, but we happen to be focusing. And so now if we actually are talking about how we are interacting with the images that we see and our feelings inside, and this concept of soul and brain, heart, lung, we start to pay attention to our feeling of the heart. We start to sense our lungs and pay attention to the rhythm of that, and we look into our brain and looking for that source, the source of where does the source of our attention come from, and that's somehow related to this soul, and it's related to that empty spot in the middle as well. So, and what I was going to suggest is that empty spot in the middle, when you think about it, it actually this can be like it expands out and is like a connector that can connect with other things outside of the field of just this entity alone. It'll connect with everything else that's similar to it, that also vibrates at its level due to the interaction of these other 4 things, because all these 4 things have to be activated all at once. It's not good to have just a big brain or powerful lungs or an open heart or a soul. It's the interaction of all these items that causes that free plasma in the center to be strong and activate. And once that's activated, then it sends out its tendrils and it connects with any other thing that's of that strength, nearby or far, far away.
And what I know about a brand, we use CH3. About a health, we use amino acid, and the lunch is a metal. What I know only, and you have to develop. Because I say I have learned only for 2 months. It's too short to know everything. But I have ideas about this one, and you have to continue to develop it.
Well, developing is to look at the human structure. If we think that every yellow dot is one of our organs, in the end they'll be connected into a configuration. It will be a sort of a design. I don't want to name it, but in the end, everything will be connected to each other, all the organs. But as Mr. Rick says, every part of it, including the middle part of it, and interacts within and without, especially you see, it all needs how you look after yourself. Let's say your stomach is terrible pain and your kidneys are not gonna coordinate this interaction. You need to be able to look after it, so that and those interactions and within its totality, they have the right interaction, and then you go beyond. How you go beyond?
Yeah.
You experience that it's individual.
When you go beyond, the soul go only. The brain and the heart and the lung stay on the.
You'd be surprised what goes there.
Yeah, I know. The soul go only. The rest,
Not necessarily.
Yeah, still on your body.
You might appear your way here, but you might be able to appear with your heart something totally else. And with that, you had to carry your heart with you to be able to adapt yourself where you are. You need to be able to resonate all that. It's just because it's like a matter. It doesn't mean that it can't be transferred or just move to another location or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I have only 2 months. It's too short to understand.
Yeah, the soul could engulf it, and it all goes right up into the soul.
Yeah, the soul go.
The soul could. When I say engulf it, would take it in, and then when you want to relocate, you could then the soul being the creator. You are the soul. The soul of you is the creator of you, and that would be one way of saying it. It's not probably the right way, but it's a start. And so when we start to increase the field forces of our soul, we have to start somewhere. We have to be, right now we're the guinea pig on ourselves. In other words, as I practice to increase the field strengths of my soul, I have to use every resource that I have developed previously to use it as a tool rather than as a way that retards. I want to use it to benefit the increasing of the field forces of my soul. And so some tools, I have to say, they don't work for right now. Other tools that I've used that I know have worked for me previously, like one tool that I have used was clicking the amygdala forward. And I don't know if anybody knows that particular system, but it's all an imaginary system using the 2 amygdalae in each hemisphere of your brain, right next to the thalamus, and they're at the end of the hypothalamus. So it's just part of the center of the brain where Mr. Keshe has pointed to. That's where the essence of the soul lies, is in that particular area too, in between the 2 amygdala. And so I've learned to click my amygdala forward so that I can use it for ways to create new things, to create new circumstances in my life. And in other words, bring the serendipity into my life. And it's all done through imagination. I use an imaginary feather to tickle my amygdala. I call it amygdala, but there's one on each side of in each hemisphere. And so all that is an imaginary force. And so now I have that tool, but it's not the tool that I want to increase the field forces of my soul, but it just very well may be helpful because I have that resource. And the same thing as I've had that powerful fear of the dark. That may not be the only tool that I use, but it may be helpful for me. I've had these tremendous pleasures in my life. They may not be the only tool, but they may be helpful for me. And so in essence, I'm being my own guinea pig so that I can increase the field forces of my soul. And any resource that I can use that helps that is something that I can use. Now, something that retards it, then it may be helpful at another time, but it may not be helpful at that moment. So that's a little technique that I'm using.
Yeah, one thing I have to say, in this world, the human is deadly, but our soul is immortal. You have to remember, the body is deadly, but your soul is immortal. What I say to you, Oli.
So see, this is nice to say that, but to me, it's not an absolute. No. This is absolutely for you.
No,
but it's not absolutely for me. Yeah, I do see. This is the thing. Because of my own imaginations and interpretations of things, I have seen people die all the time, and it seems like nobody has around me has ever lived beyond a certain point of their life. But that does not mean that there is somebody that that I have not heard of yet that has never died, and so. And I might be one that is able to control his soul to the point that my physical body doesn't have to die. And so with that, then I don't accept that as a resource. In other words, to me, that doesn't work as a resource at this point. Do you see what I mean saying, Chen? Because that's part of my imagination. If I imagine that I can live forever, it's still part of my imagination. And if
this is only your imagination. But the truth on the earth, every human die.
You see, I don't know that as a fact.
And you don't know?
But you know it. But you know it as a fact. But I don't know it as a fact. Yeah. Yes, it's true for you at this particular time. You may find out that it's not true. And but it's no sense arguing over it. But for a resource, you can utilize that as a resource.
But you could say, generally speaking, that the human physicality appears to die.
Like E.T. You know, you see E.T. He comes from the far planet, not on the Earth. He comes with his soul, but he take a material of the Earth to make his body.
There was a Chinese emperor, and it's been recorded. It's in its own history books and everything. And it's been said that he's had special powers. And I've been reading all this all throughout my life, and trying to understand how. And this is the guy who actually recorded millions of herbs in China, whether they are poisoned or not. How did he do it? There's also another record about him with saying, and he'd be able to see the interaction, he'd be able to see through his stomach, and he'd be able to determine whether it's poisonous, and he'd be able to come over the poison and make it deactivate it, and then just record it. And this person is being recorded on all the history books, most of the history books, and he's the most famous emperor in China. You see what we're talking about. We'd like to go into some details, some understanding, rather than discussing the same or talking about exactly the same thing.
So, Alper, you can use that particular knowledge that you have for a resource for yourself to increase the field flows of your soul. And so I'm just and Chen can use the knowledge that he has that everyone dies, but the immortal stays.
But I'd like to say,
but the soul is immortal. He can use that as a resource.
Mortal, of course, it's immortal. Soul is not bound by time, by space, by measurements. Immortal is not included in that. I'm sorry. Soul sees beyond you, before you. higher self. They call it all those terms, you know it. Yes. How are you going to filter that information and then digest that information that's so super overwhelming because it's beyond going, it sees everything, and then understand it with yourself. We're talking about something to be able to increase. It's already been super pumped up and increased. What we need to increase here is our physicality, is the heart, that peace within our heart that has to be determined. You need to forget about your mortgage. You need to forget about how much you own the money. You need to get rid of all those penetrations with your life and move to countryside or whatever that it resonates with you. That starts with our physicality. That we need to achieve that. If not, okay, just sit in your own atmospheric condition and meditate. That pretend that you're somewhere else. It's all maybe the same thing. I can't. No one to say about it. But do you resonate what I'm saying? Probably. And yeah, not much to add to that really.
But do you what?
Yeah.
You know what is reincarnation?
Incarnation is recycling. Who created that within a system? Who determined what is its levels? I have no idea. But what I have a knowledge of, me being an Englishman with a ginger mustache, at the same time, while being that person looking through a spider's eye from a zoo, it's my understanding. That's what I am, and then you are everyone at the same time. This is the threshold that when we come to it, we hit it really hard, and then we go back to our mortgage, and then everything's forgotten. That's just um, it's the really hard slash in between all these worlds. But we need to sort out physicality in terms of all that that's a fear, whatever you name it. Yeah, and then with that, yeah, lottery. I win the lottery. I give it to you all. It's recorded. If I don't, find me and get all my money. It's all about that. I mean, of course, Mr. Keshe would say um, rather deeper understanding of it. You don't even need that. You need to focus. But okay, there are understandings of it, levels of it, first timers and ignorers, but sort of understands a little bit and goes really intellectual with that with other people. There are all sorts of levels of experience in this environment. We know it all. It's just that, really. I mean, see how it goes. Daniel. Yeah.
Thanks, Helper.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
so I've been trying to erase this central free plasma. It doesn't want to go away, though. I cannot clear it without. Maybe I can try a screen share to reshare. So, Mr. Chen, you can, if you want to share some more, that's fine. I want to try to share the screen to be able to erase my annotate. And maybe that's all it takes is what we just did there. I'll just share a whiteboard and then, whoops, I need to... Okay, you can share again if you like.
Yes. Can I explain something else?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll try to be quiet so that you have the right to share fully.
This one is when I hear you talking about soul, I imagine something else, but it's not by what I want to say to you. What I want to say to you is something else. Now, The same thing. Now about this one is a love totality. If you want to have a love of totality, you have to entirely and unconditional. The first one. The second one, you have to have a joy, because joy give you a positive and you can open your mind. After that, you have to forgive, accept, and forgive. Because when you forgive, you accept, and you have peace. You someone say to me, forgive and accept. We haven't to accept, but you know everything come to you, and you have to let you accept. But one thing, you don't react, but act wisely.
Let me just interject there on the forgive, because Mr. Keshe had a point to make today. He says, don't use the word forgive, just use the word give. Don't use the for in front of it.
Yeah, okay. You know about work, I'm not good in the with the word, but I like this one is something. Because if you have a total love totally, you have the entirely and unconditional. You have a joy, you become positive, open mind, and you give, accept, and peace. Accept, but with don't react, but act wisely only. With this one, you know, you want to raise your soul with love totally. You begin with entirely and unconditional. If you have a love entirely and unconditional, you have a joy and you be positive and you open your mind. After you accept, you give and you accept and you have peace. When you have these three, your love totally raised naturally. I say to you.
See, now this is where Rick's free plasma can sit.
Yeah,
yes, he can put soul in the center.
Yes, yeah, this one you have you are right. I forget.
Yes, every configuration always has this sort of a higher link that's created. Voidness in the middle. Voidness of the void.
Put in a red to be.
So this could work very well for a graph that would help people.
Yeah.
And increase the field forces of the soul.
I love totally. Yeah, because you know, these three elements is very important to make a love totality. If you cannot entirely and unconditional, you cannot have a love totality. If you have no joy, you cannot be positive and you cannot open your mind. You haven't love totality. If you don't give, you don't accept, and you haven't the peace. If you haven't the peace, you have no totality, love totality. Because this is a base to have a love totality. Because Mr. Keshe say always love totality, but you have three. You don't have these three base. You cannot have love totality. I say what I know about this way. I share my knowledge for you, and this one you have to cultivate entirely and unconditional joys and give, and directly you have a love totality, and your soul raise and raise step by step. You have to cultivate these three before.
Interesting idea.
This, you have a love totality.
First, it's if you could change the inconditional, it's actually unconditional with a U instead of an I there. It's inconsistent with the I. It's unconditional with the UN.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I would also add.
Oops. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I would just for you. You can make any work you want, but
Yeah.
No, I'm using this for discussion now, Chen. I don't need to. I think, Mr. You want to what? How would you like to be called? Which would you want your first name, or do you want to be?
Yeah. You call me Chin Chin. It's good. Chin Chin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful name.
I had a very good friend by the name of Han Ping Chung, and some people called him Ping Pong, and others just called him Han. He was a great friend. So my suggestion here is that you look at love totally, unconditionally, and joy, and give and accept as something that is in the present, is now. They are our four reactors, and we're looking at soul as the free plasma. However, that is not so much a reality, because the soul is sometimes there first, and because of that, it begins to. So there's a duality here, but what I want to use it for is a tool. So then I look at it as a tool and try to find the best form that will be productive for me.
Yeah, I suggest only what I know. I suggest only you can send everything you want, but this is a way you have a more imagination to make a reactor for your soul. Only.
Yeah, that's very good, and I'm not. I'm using this to. I like this. Thanks.
Yeah. Welcome. You know, I teaching for my people about medicine, traditional medicine. But I have learned about this one when I look at the teaching of the Mr. Keshe. I am very interested. It's very amazing for me. But I try to take the teaching of the Mr. Keshe into my what I am learning and what I am teaching for for the people of my country.
I'm glad that you're here, because it gives such a perspective. This is such an effort to be able to create this diagram and to present it, and it's just an amazing inspiration as always.
Thank you. You know, I say
just don't hesitate telling more, because you seem like you're more than what you are, sir, and we're happy to share everything. I mean, just go ahead, please. Really burst it out.
Yeah, I want to say to you. Yeah, can you say to Mr. Keshe, I have learned
nothing.
That's one thing. I have to pay him for 2 or 3. I learned one, and I pay to him more than I have learned. I say what I want to do. And you know, in 2 years, I teach my people of my country freely for 2 years. When I teach, more I learn.
Oh,
and now, and I learn from the Mr. Keshe, this one, I try to apply the plasma of
I'm
respect.
nowhere near you. I haven't told probably a couple of people, maybe 3 or 4, nowhere near you. Amazing to hear all this. Such an inspiration and courage. Really, it's just giving me. It's just so big. You won't believe it. Really.
Yeah, I know. You know, I always say I do something. I do with all my heart. I hope you increase yourself when I can do something for someone. Always hope he increase itself.
That's far too obvious. You can hardly talk, but your heart talks more than you. Your soul already told me everything before you started your sentence. This is what it is. Mr. Keshe is talking about it. I mean, I'm just kindly determining this situation. Nowhere near being it's just a person to tell everything, but yeah, man.
Yeah. Let me interject, you guys. I'm going to interrupt your love fest there.
Oh, don't do that.
Thank you, Danny. We don't want to get too sentimental here. Have to break out the napkins and
Rick knows me.
cry, and where's this? It's funny. We're mostly men in this the circle these days too, and yet in the live stream, it's 2 women that are talking about how females can grasp this idea of the soul intention faster and this kind of thing. And here we are, the men are talking about their feelings and about love and soul and so on. So times are changing.
I can cuddle and sleep with him. He is all that intimacy, and is nothing to do with sexuality. Is nothing to do with feeling it, touching it, physicality. I've already hugged him and kissed him and thanked him. He's just
okay. I'm going to still interrupt.
That's what souls do.
All right, I'm doing so myself.
Let's let Danny put some reality in here.
I'm going to look at some of the experiences we've experienced with making reactors. When we I don't know if I can annotate. I might, but I don't know. When we look at these 4 reactors, love totally, unconditional, the joy, and the give, accept, and peace. When we make these reactors, we make a certain flow to them. And we also, in each of the reactors, we have a connecting, like if we're using CO2 GANs, and we're using CH3 GANs, and we're using the zinc GANs. Sometimes we put proportion of each one in each reactor, and so that there's a link. And so it's when we start to look at this, because we're trying to increase the field force of the soul, and reactor 1, love totally. Reactor 2, the love unconditional, pretty much the same thing. So they share some of the commonality with one another. Actor number 3, the joy and the positive open mind, they also share a common aspect between the unconditional and the total. And give, accept, and have peace, it also has a commonality between all 4 of the reactors. So there's a commonality there that each one of the reactors share, and that's what we tried to do when we were making the physical reactors, and we were trying to create free plasma. And so right now we're trying to increase the free plasma of our soul, which Mr. Keshe has identified as being between the 2 hemispheres of the brain, just somewhere at the level of the ears and the eyes. That's where this particular soul resides, and that's where he's. And so we're trying to increase that particular field force of the soul, and these four attributes of life run through the heart. Do you notice that?
Yeah. I say I have only 2 months. I have a little knowledge only, but I try to give you my knowledge by making a picture. You can realize and you can imagine more. I can. I suggest only for you the reactor in my imagination about soul, about love, totality, everything. And before I say about soul, brain, and hello, everything, you see, a mental, a heart, and a lot. Is something like this one.
But Chin,
yes.
What I'm doing is I'm correlating your image, your diagram here, with what Mr. Keshe suggested as a technique to increase the field flow of the soul. The technique was to generate the energies in your heart to strengthen and have an interaction between your heart and your soul. And this particular diagram does it. It gives you a way of getting the field forces of the heart to flow and interact with the field forces of the soul, because the soul is feeding on the field forces of the heart, and then it also then strengthens the soul, then strengthens the field forces of the heart. That's one of the techniques that Mr. Keshe talked about early. That was not today, but the day before.
May I share my screen to show a picture which maybe will help? I just finished drawing it.
Yes.
Does it come through?
Yes, I see it.
Yes.
So it's about the circulation of the blood, not in very detail, but with most of organs. In center, you see the heart, and you see how it connects the different parts. You have a lower circulation for the body, for the organs. You have another circulation for the lungs, and you have one which goes to the arms and to the head. So maybe this helps about to geometrically understand the positions. So the position between the head and the heart, it's something fixed, which determines a certain interconnection in between, a certain field strength. So please, then continue. If this picture can help to describe what you started.
Yes, thank you, Sandor. It also gives another perspective that thank you very much.
You're welcome. And don't forget that there is also a circulation of the lymph, and also there is a nervous system, but this is only the blood.
See, that was another technique that Mr. Keshe suggested you use, was that you go back through all the health videos that have been recorded and study them, so that you'll have a resource to strengthen that field forces of the soul. And so the reason why I'm blabbing on here is because I'm looking at techniques that I can use to strengthen that field force of my soul. So I'm acting as a guinea pig for myself. And this is in my this is in the back roads of my mind, and you just brought it forward. Thanks.
Strengthening of the soul goes through having beautiful experience in physicality. You need to be able to put your hand under the stone, to have the courage to be able to apply yourself, and then you progress with your own heart. You haven't come to your soul yet. Your soul sees everything, and then after that, courage gives the soul a strength. Then you go ahead with what you're going to do, what you're going to be able to progress. That's how I see it. If I'm wrong,
well, let me make a statement that as an embryo, I have a soul, and all I'm experiencing is what's going on in the room, which is probably pretty pleasant, but I don't have the total recall of that.
Yes. Your experience with you're not bind with any time or limit or anything according to your soul understanding of your soul, but your physicality in this duality, we have a limitation by our understanding and determination, and we're just trying to pass over that understanding to be able to reach our soul. But it's not far, it's already here. It's just the threshold or the penetration that we have to go through. I don't know, Danny.
Well, see,
be able to talking nothing, you know that.
That's okay. No.
I'm not.
This is an interactive class, it looks like, today, because we don't have much time, because Rick will be needing to head out here before the half hour is up.
Yeah, probably in about 10 or 15 minutes, actually. So.
And were you drawing the head on there, Rick, or was that Shandor?
No, it wasn't me. May have been Shandor.
I was going to suggest what I show you, you can present for Mr. Keshe. I don't present for him because you have to send which one you like to adapt for the teaching of the Mr. Keshe. Please do for me, please.
It's good to remember him and every now and then to prove the understanding comes actually from him. I mean, I'm not promoting him, but I have to respect every moment of it.
Yeah. Well, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still caught up here with Shandor. I'm sorry. I interrupted. My mind is saying that with this picture that Mr. Shandor is showing, is it throws my imagination into the point where everything is field forces. Everything around me is field forces. Everything that I'm doing, and everything is a field force, whether it's physical or whether it's just the plasma. Even plasma is probably physical, but I mean, we're using physical as a terminology. So all of this that we're having are field forces. Everything that exists around us is a field force, and we can draw from those field forces to increase the soul.
Yeah. Everything else we see, as far as the eye see, we have a physical interaction with it. The objects that we don't see, but we're attached, we feel the field of it. Every single thing has the plasmatic interaction. It's as far as I can see, I can control it, even if you wish to.
Okay, so we look at this diagram. Where is number one, the soul in the diagram, and where are the fields? How do we how do we bring that into this, what we're looking at?
Now we're looking at the totality of the weighing system, but when we come to a component of it, where it this is just a wiring system that, as I can interrupt, can say, but the components interacts with itself. Yeah, it's just like that. Really, I mean,
one thing.
it's like Earth, isn't it? Isn't it like Earth? The same model can be applied onto every organic living. We can apply to that.
You know, when I make a learn herb and the brand have a plasma, a field plasma of the brand. A herb have a field plasma of the herb, and the learn have a field plasma of the learn. Because if I say plasma,
yeah,
you cannot imagine. But I make herbs, lunch and brand, you can imagine, this is a brand, he have a plasma in intact with a soul. Only. The same thing. Only the name. The name is nothing.
So true. That's right, sir.
Right. Right. So that's the point I'm sort of getting to here, is that we can look at the physicality systems, like the flow of blood and so on, but that's like looking at the tubes filled with GANs in a reactor situation or something, when we could be looking at the fields of that reactor rather than the way the tubing works. But perhaps we can look at the way the tubing works and get an idea of the way the fields would interact with that configuration of tubing, let's say.
This indicates the whole totality of it, how it's interconnected with itself. It's the physical evidence of the whole universe. This is the physical evidence of the whole universe. That's how we're connected.
And often we can rapidly tell what the what would you say, the mood or emotion of someone else is by, we look at them, we look at their body postures, we look at their facial expressions particularly, and other, you know, other arms are flailing and, you know, this kind of thing. But
you don't even look at the arms, you look at the eye, but you see the arms and you see the whole body just by looking into the eye. And I actually sees with the corner of the eye every single thing, and determines by the intellectuality of your today's self, and determines it and understands it, and then really change the shape. Perhaps you'd be more handsome.
Well, our shape changes, our field structure changes when that happens.
And you see the arms are showing so much the emotion, expressing the emotion. Of course, somebody can control it, like a diplomat, for instance. You see the diplomat sitting with the hands on the top and showing poker face to not show emotions. But people who speak emotionally, you see, if somebody talks that he laughs all the word, he makes this horizontal movements and so on. If somebody is angry, there is a funny Russian politician, Zhirinovsky. If you see him, always he say, chop them in pots, cut their head, and shoot them, and so on. And he talks about it. So with one hand only, and it shows exactly the motion, how to fight with a sword or how to point with a gun. It's always, you see, if somebody is very, how to say, apathetic or asking for pity or neurotic, he says, I feel not so good.
Anxiety,
The
all
arms
the
are showing towards his body parts where he feels pain. So it's very interesting to see how people use their hands while they are talking.
mm-hmm.
It tells a lot about the emotions.
Is to be able to release the excess, overwhelming. That's what I said.
Look at the Mediterranean people.
Yeah.
How they're gesticulating. For instance, South Italy or Sicilia.
Yeah. Yes, so true.
Every
That's a great
word
observation.
Also his hands when he says, "You have so little mind that."
Nobody would understand it, you know that.
The black under the nail. So he makes actually such a gestures while he talks something. He tells other words, but he shows such a thing in the same time.
Absolutely. Oh, sir. It's a pleasure, really. It's good. It's
so the arms are expressing emotion very well. So look where it's connected. And you see, they are the emotions of the body, they are the emotions of the soul, and so on.
And also, if you think about the facial expressions,
of course, actually, so the whole body is mirrored on the head.
Right, exactly. So if we were, for example, to get the notion that it might be a good idea to pay attention to our moods and states and emotions in the moment, more and more so, to kind of zero in on this soul perspective, let's say, then it might be a good idea to pay attention to the tensions and expressions in our muscles, in our face, in the moment, because that is actually the indicator of our state in that moment.
You're funny there, Sandor.
Just look how the face is exactly the body. So as the body is in three parts, like head, chest, so between the diaphragm and the neck, and the lower part of the body. Same, you have here this division. So you have from here up an upper part, the intellectual part, the soul part. You have here something which expresses the emotions, and you have a lower part which expresses the physicality. Also, as you have, for instance, in the body, you have the air, the lungs in the middle. So here you have the nose and what is connected inside the skull. It's in the middle. So what you feed, you have the intestine on the lower part. So here you have the part which is connected to feeding, to digestion, your mouth. And as you have the waters into the bladder at the lowest part, so you have the waters of your mouth, your saliva.
Yep, all of our tensions are expressed directly on our face, generally speaking, and it could be anything from intestinal gas through to your concern about world peace or whatever, and whatever comes up in our attention, with usually in our thoughts and our emotions, gets reflected in our facial expressions generally. So it seems like a good idea to, number one, pay attention to those, and number two, perhaps learn how to voluntarily do expressions that are of more benefit for the elevation of the soul, for example, or the elevation of the soul of others. And
you have to know to see then, also, for example, the face, whether they are in balance or not, because sometimes you see that he has a smile, but the eyes are either angry or either sad. And sad eyes with a smile, it means the smile is just for the society and it doesn't reflect the feeling.
Right, and if we put that on a personal basis for ourselves, if we can sense those tensions on our face mask, let's say, or on our face muscles, then we can get a handle on, oh geez, I'm really tense in one part of my face when I'm expressing myself right now. I wonder what that is, and maybe it might be related to a childhood injury, or somebody, you know, hurt someone, or maybe it was a good thing that happened in their childhood. So you always have a little smile when, you know, when you talk about ice cream or whatever it is. And
my
you can
goodness, how
notice
true
these
is that?
little things.
It's all that. It's just you gave the secret of it. Everything.
Well, it
You
just actually is a big secret, and we need to spend more time on that.
You really
perhaps.
did that.
I'm going to have to fade away here soon with
Yeah,
that
that's
little
good.
secret dropped
I
in
was-
there.
Yeah. Goodbye, Rick. See you later. I'll see you in a moment or two. I mean, I got to
Thank
go.
you.
Yeah, so anyways, I do have to fade out here and get ready for the next workshop, take a break for a few minutes.
There are 15 minutes
But,
left only.
Goodbye.
We've started a good topic here, and if those people who really want to carry on with that sort of thing, then we can perhaps bring it up in the workshop coming up here shortly.
We have to, Rick, because we've been asked not to deal with our GANs and stuff, to spend to focus on
Right.
strengthening of the soul. So
Yeah, all the play with nanomaterials, with gases, with reactors, gas reactors and GANs reactors, all needed just to teach us about the fields and to understand the fields and the effect of the fields, how you can create, you can free up the fields from the solid matter, and how you can produce matter by the interaction of fields. And once you have the understanding of the fields, you have to discover the fields which you can control, which are your own fields. And then the real game starts. So let's meet in 15 minutes at the Blueprint for Peace for Humanity lecture.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, let me, whoops, please
Bye-bye,
say
everybody.
goodbye here. Get that pinned. And there we go. All right, well, thanks. That was an invigorating discussion there today, guys. Thanks for everybody for sticking with it. I'm sorry I didn't answer all the questions in live stream and so on there, but I see that they had a pretty vigorous interchange as well. And it's all good. We'll all have time for what's necessary when it becomes necessary, and that's part of the just-in-time delivery that you get with this program. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up for now, and stay tuned. Hello?
Previously, I asked about the emotions, if there are any emotions are actually participating in the conversations and without revealing their identifications. Could they talk about their feelings, how they feel night and day, what is going on? And I know that emotions have a very intense insight from Mr. Keshe, and we have witnessed some of it from the last teachings, and which was. Oh,
yeah,
my
well,
goodness.
we're told they're out in the world and doing their thing and so on, and that's something that we can bring up in the next meeting group here. The peace workshop. Okay, so let's end this for now. Like I say, I have to get into the other ones, so away we go. And thanks everybody for attending, and Keshe Plasma Reactor Group for what's now Wednesday, July 5th, 2017. It's been a pleasure to interact and hear you all, and thank you for being part of this group and making it what it is. It'd certainly be boring with just me and Guy, and that was it.
We got lots of brothers and sisters out there.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for the support. And thanks for going with this new flow. We're moving away, at least temporarily, who knows, from the GANs and nano world into this other world, which tentatively move into. But it's all good. It all ties back, and it all is related. So, okay, enough for now, and let's sign out.